I'm Russell. I'm an addict. I have to tell how it was, what happened, and how it is now. I was born in East Chicago, Indiana in 1968, July the 5th. My father was an alcoholic, and my mother was manic depressive schizophrenic, paranoid schizophrenic. They were originally from Tennessee, so they moved back to Tennessee when I was about one and a half. When I was about 4 years old, my father became a policeman in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. My mother was a homemaker. We lived at my father's mother's house, my grandmother's house in Dutch Valley, Tennessee. My childhood was pretty good until I was about 5 years old. My grandmother doted on me because I was the least grandchild out of 18, so she doted on me because my mother was too sick to take care of me. When I was about 10, I really didn't understand all that. My mother being sick, she couldn't cook, she couldn't clean. About 9 years old, my father told me once that my mother went out with her sister, and when I was a baby, and when they realized she was really sick, she came back from like J.C. Penney's or somewhere at the mall and said she wanted to drop me on my head and kill me because she couldn't take care of me. So I was about 9 or 10 when my father was alcoholic. He run women. I remember an instance when I was about 6. He came in from being a policeman 3 o'clock in the morning and slapped my mother around a little bit. So when I was about 9 and a half or 10, my mother decided her mother convinced her to divorce my father. So we split up. We moved and went and lived with her mother, and she had a brother that lived there that was disabled. While I was there, my mother's brothers didn't like my father because he's a policeman. He did his own thing. Of course, he slapped their sister around a little bit. So they took it out on me. They mentally and physically abused me at will because my father wasn't around to stop it. So finally, me and my mother she got our own place, an apartment, to get away from that. And I was unruly. I mean, nobody to watch over me. My father wasn't around. He was doing his own thing. Didn't pay his child support, so we were on welfare. I had to wear clothes from hand-me-downs of my cousins. And I started smoking marijuana. My brother was 4 years older than me, so he introduced me to marijuana. And then I met friends, and they introduced me to huffing spray paint. My father, at this time, had went and become a sheriff's deputy in the county I lived in. And he worked his way up through the ranks to lieutenant. So I started lashing out. I started doing bad in school, just wouldn't go to school. Then I started burglarizing houses at 11. When I burglarized a house, when my name had come across to the police, my father being a lieutenant would have been an embarrassment. So he would send officers out to make it go away. So there was never no consequences for my actions. I burglarized, I guess, about 6 houses at 11. So when my mother I was on juvenile probation. I was huffing paint, laying out of school. I believe in my 7th grade year, I missed 43 days. It was like go to the school bus stop. Me and a buddy would go off and smoke pot, huff paint, or whatever, Smoke cigarettes, of course. And so my father came back. My father had been gone away. He was off doing his own thing as a sheriff's deputy. He would go down. Sometimes I'd be at my grandmother's house on weekend visits, and he'd come in with his squad car and be drunk in a patrol car. Of course, there was no oversight. He was the lieutenant. He could do what he wanted to. So he was a bad alcoholic. And I think once he got caught with a bunch of Quaaludes in a patrol car, and of course there's no oversight. Nobody, they're getting kickbacks, they're doing what they want to. They were dirty, there's no doubt, But things were different then in that area because there wasn't a lot of people. So he comes back and he takes me back at 12 because my mother has to be institutionalized. She's in a mental institution. She just couldn't do it anymore. So my father takes me back. I go back to my grandmother's house where I really originally wanted to be, and things are fine. That's where I come from. That's where that's where I enjoy being. Of course, my grandmother doted on me, and then 2 years later, my father meets he gets hooks up back up with one of his old girlfriends he cheated on my mother with, and they end up getting married. So we move into her house in the next city over, Clinton, Tennessee. And things are all different. She comes from a rich family. So I go from doing what I want to do, smoking cigarettes and having to run of where I come from down in the country, and she had to teach me manners. And yes, I mean, just how to talk to people. She just thought she was somebody. And so then my grades were okay at that time. Things started to come back to normal where I make A's, B's, C's instead of D's and F's. And then my grades started to slip a little bit because I just didn't get along with her and her son. It wasn't the same. So when I was 16 years old, I went to school. I'd missed a couple of grades. I was 16 years old in ninth grade because I'd failed and did some really bad things. My brother would take me on weekends and we'd smoke pot and drink beer, just whatever. And I came home the weekend with a report card, and I didn't give it to my father because I had an F on it. He told me. My father's a big man, 6'2". He weighed about 270. He was mean. He was real mean. He whipped me many a time through the years. And so I went to my grandmother's house that weekend, and they found out report cards come out. And I remember him getting me in the car to go home on Sunday. And when I handed my report card, he seen an F. He backhanded me and broke my nose. Told me when we got home to strip all my clothes off in my bedroom, and he'd be in there to see me. I get down to my underwear, and he come in there, and as the devil in his eye, he beat me for an hour. I mean, just to no end. I went to school the next day, and one of my teachers, she liked me real well. When she touched me on the shoulder and she pulled away, she knew my home life. They all knew my father. He was a lieutenant sheriff's department. She took me out in the hallway and pulled up my shirt, and you just have no idea what it looked like. I was beat I had strap marks across here, down on my groin, and I was beat from head to toe, just profusely. It looked awful. So they pulled me out of the home, took me to several homes. That didn't work out. The last one I finally run away from, and went to my mother's sister's house where I had some good times, and they took custody of me. Then that was in 1985. When I turned 17, I joined the Army just to get away. I had to escape all of that. So I joined the Army. I spent 3 years in the Army. I get out, not sure what I was going to do in life, and started working construction. Then lost my job construction. Now my father's still a policeman, and I didn't know, but in the works they were trying to get me a job as a sheriff's deputy in that county, Anderson County, Tennessee. But I didn't know that was happening in the background. No one told me. So when I lose my job, I'm dating this girl, and then I marry her and lose my job right after that. And I start burglarizing out and go back to just what I knew. I start burglarizing houses. When I'm 22 years old, I get convicted of 11 felonies of aggravated burglary. I go to prison, Tennessee. I did 26 months in state prison. I got out of prison. I did drugs when I was in prison. That's the way it is. That's how you deal with it. Not anything hard, but this or that. Pills mainly. So I get out, I start working. I'd done masonry, and became a bricklayer. I worked through life. But as I'm working through life, my brother's a bricklayer, so we work together a lot. He introduces me to cocaine, so we snort cocaine, we drink beer. I mean, just whatever, you know. I've done acid, Quaalude, you name it. If it was readily available, I did it just because, just to fit in. So later in life, I go 4 or 5 years stints where I wouldn't do anything, but then anywhere I moved around a lot, I'd follow the bricklayers union to make the monies. But anywhere I went, there I was. So I'd always surround myself with a crowd that drank, done drugs, and did bad stuff, even though I tried to do what was right. And so it would be long, and I lived in like, well, I lived in like 10 states working, following the union. So then there I was. It wouldn't be long I'd be smoking crack or snorting cocaine or smoking pot. I mean, I didn't do a lot of it, but I did some. Drank. I had this idea that when I'd work all day laying brick, be hot and tired, I deserved it. So I'd go home, I'd grab beer, and I'd drink 12-pack every night. So in 2007, I fell on a job in Tennessee building. I was in prison, then I got to build a prison. So I was working on prison, building a new prison in Tennessee, and fell and broke my neck in 2 places. I'd never really took any serious pain pills. I had took just here or there just to get high, you know. But then I let doctors string me out on pain pills. I was taking Oxycontin 80s, Roxy 30s, morphine, you name it. I mean, that went on for 13 years. Or about 11 years, and then when the pain pills weren't working more, I turned to heroin. So I started snorting heroin regular. About OD'd once, snorted just a little too much one time, and it made me real sick. All I wanted to do was go to sleep now. I mean, and I realized that I'd crossed the line. Then's when I decided I'd had enough. So back early '90s, I'd met a woman from Ohio and spent a little time one of my travels into Ohio. So I called up some friends I knew in Ohio in 2019 and told them I was done. I couldn't do the heroin, just couldn't do it no more. Anything that you're sick if you don't get it, you do it. You spend the next 8 hours when you're waiting for when you're going to do it again. That's all you can think about. It just clouds your whole train of thought. Everything. There's no life. It's just you're existing, taking drugs. And I called a friend. He come and got to Tennessee and got me. And because I'd lost everything I had, my car, everything. It did nothing mean anything but the heroin. So he came back, brought me back to Dayton, and I told him, I said, man, I said, I don't want you to call the ambulance. I don't want you to take me to the hospital. I said, I'm laying right here, and I'm either getting off this heroin or I'm going to die trying this thing or two was about it. Because back in the military, they gave me a will. They convinced me out of will. I could will myself to do just about anything if I just stuck my mind to it, you know. So I laid over in West Dayton for 10 days. This is the most horrible 10 days of my life. I had a flu 100 times worse than a flu. Couldn't sleep, couldn't anything. But, you know, I woke up on day 8, hadn't ate 8 days, hadn't drunk anything, just sick. Felt a little better, 8. Day 9, felt a little better. Come out day 10, and I hadn't felt that way in 20 years. I didn't hurt. My arms didn't bother me, my neck didn't bother me. I just couldn't believe it. I just withdrew off of it, as sick as it made me. It proved to me that it is possible to get off of it, but it is a part of you, and you have to get rid of it. So I quit doing that. Started working again, working for myself, contracting, was successful, but the same old thoughts always come by. God, let's get high. You deserve it. You worked hard today, or you're making the money. It's your money. You made it. So somebody introduced me to crystal meth. I'd never done it. I was always against it. And then, so I smoked crystal meth once. And I thought, yeah, wasn't too bad. Gave me energy. So I did that for a little while, and I didn't care for it as much as I did crack cocaine. So I met some people, some crack dealers, and so I started smoking crack again. But I wouldn't do it all the time in the beginning because I was working. I was successful. I had bills to pay. So I'd do it occasionally. I'd use smoke meth maybe sometimes in the morning just to be able to work all day but I didn't do it all day every day, not in the beginning. So then it got to where I was doing it all the time, and even though I was working, I would, I'd train myself how to eat on it, how to sleep on it, and just be oblivious to the world all the time, other than I could concentrate on my work, what I call keeping my mind busy. And I got to where I would work all day, about 12 hours, stay up all night that night working on my tools, get ready for work the next day, work all the next day, and then sleep the next night. So I was sleeping every other night. I know it sounds insane, but it's the way it was. So it was okay for a while, but then the same old thing come back. I started doing it every day, smoking crack every day, and just couldn't keep it up. So what I do, my house burns down. I lost a bunch of stuff there because I didn't have insurance, and then I just got to where I didn't give a fuck anymore. Didn't Nothing mattered anymore. It was just the drugs. Just all had control of me all over again. So I'm doing that, and I get stopped one time and I get charged with OVI, DUI, same thing. And I ended up beating the charge, but still I could see. I mean, I was going down that path, and it eventually got to where I just didn't care anymore. I'd just go and smoke crack or meth every day. It wouldn't work. I wouldn't do anything else. I lost everything I'd worked so hard to have again. Seemed like I'd ever again and again and again, same old deal. So I pick up this charge, an F5, over a job. Dissatisfied customer. They go, here's your warrant for me, so I go to jail. I go to jail again. I go to jail again because I'm on pretrial, and of course I'm smoking crack every day. And even though I am doing some work, I'm smoking crack every day. And every time I go down to pretrial, they drug test me, and they pop me for cocaine or methamphetamine. They put me in jail for 4 or 5 days or 30 days. I was in Warren County Jail 5 times in a year. So I go in to be sentenced. He gives me 30 days in jail. Then when I get on the probation, I violate a couple of times drug tests, and finally they decide that the next time is I'm going to have to go to treatment. Never been to where I come from. You go to treatment, you're the worst of the worst. You're a needle junkie. I mean, it's just unheard of to think that you go to treatment. Down in Tennessee, there's not treatments like there's many as there is around Ohio. So they send me to a treatment center in Dayton called Nova Behavioral Health. I've never been nowhere like that. Nothing. I mean, somebody tells you every move to make. So I make it about 20 days, and I get into it with somebody, and I sign my papers and walk out the door because they're not keeping you there. They can't make you stay. So I'm out about 3 or 4 weeks. Of course, what I do, I'm on violation. I get picked up again. Go down there. I remember telling the judge when they were going to send me to a 6-month Monday program. I remember telling the judge, he asked me what I thought about it. I said, well, I guess y'all do what you want to with me. When I'm done, I said, I think I'll go back to Nova and to a sober living because I ain't never done nothing like that. And they taught me a few things the first time I was at Nova. So he sentenced me to that. He sentenced me to going back to Nova and completing it and going to a sober living. So I complete Nova, and I get interviewed by Good Shepherd. And of course, I've never been in a halfway house or nothing. That's the kind of layout. I've never been no place like that. So I just accept whatever, just, to go on. Something's got to be better than what I was doing. So I come to Good Shepherd, and they taught me things. Now I surround myself. I realize if I surround myself with sober people, instead of surrounding myself with people who get high and drink what have you, it helps me stay sober. You go to AA meetings 4 days a week. Actually, now I have feelings. I mean, I always cancel my feelings with drugs because I didn't want to feel. I remember when in my life, and for a long time in my life, I thought my grandmother distilled, good values in me. And I always thought that I was put on this earth to make everybody's pain go away no matter what I was going through. I had to be tough. I could deal with it. I could help them, and I would be okay. And that's just how I felt. I felt like I was here to take all the pain away and make it better for everybody else. And I just lived it. I accepted it, you know. But a good shepherd, I learned that it's not like that. That everybody's entitled. I mean, not really entitled, but everybody can have the right thing if they do the right thing, do the next right thing. So good shepherds were faith based. I was raised in church. I've been saved since I was 12 years old. But I went away from the church because I wanted to do it my way. When I found out my way is just not so good. So now I'm willing to do it somebody else's way. And I can tell you that Good Shepherd is a good place. The sober living, there's a lot of people out there that probably could use some sober living. It gives you a outlook on that addiction that I never had before. Nobody ever, they didn't do that. They drank and party. They just do it as they went. They call themselves functioning alcoholics and addicts. There ain't no such thing. Ain't no thing as functioning. They don't see what they're doing to people. And I didn't see what I was doing to people. But here today I am a clean date's July the 21st of 2023. Coming up on a year. And I've been a Good Shepherd since September the 5th of 2023. So coming up on a year here soon here. That's a good place. I'll be here for a little while. I'm still on probation. I got to get that out of the way. And I've got to pay some restitution, get off probation. I lost my driver's license in this process. I got to get that back. But I'm in the process of trying to do it the right way. And that's my story, and I appreciate you letting me share, and I pass.